what you want, what you want.
Okay, so to start this project off, the first thing we got to do is build an armature. So for me, what I was thinking, the best shape for a bat's body would be kind of a bigger cone type of shape. So basically what we did is wrap some newspaper up into a decent cone-sized shape. This one is about 7 inches long. Get it wrapped up, get about the size you want like we have here, and then you're just going to wrap the whole thing up in masking tape. Make it nice and tight and sturdy. That way it's easier to mache to. And then as well for the head, all I did was just make a smaller sized cone that looked appropriate size for the body that I had. There we go. So next we'll just attach it on. Just use a little bit of hot glue and a hot glue gun. Stick it on. Run a little bead of hot glue around it just to secure it into place a little better. There we go. Now after that dries, we'll apply our first bit of mache to it. So I had some strip paper ready to go. Same process as always. We're just going to take some mache paste and some strips of paper and apply them one at a time. A little paste, a little paper, and a little paste, just over and over again until we cover the entire body, head, and body itself. And you want to layer this thing up, and like I do with all mine, you want to layer this thing up at least 5 to 6 layers and then set it out to dry. Alright, so our armature's dry. Now the next step in the process is we want to add some structure for the wings, the legs, and the tail. Total through this project, you're going to need 3 clothes hangers. Basically all I did was unwrap the clothes hanger like you saw there, straighten it out. Then I just simply bent it in half, kind of scored it down until I found the halfway point in the wire, and then just snipped that in half. I already did this to one, so I videoed another one here just to show you what I was doing. So next, there's really no science in the way that I did these wings. Basically, it was all just by a visual. I laid it up against the bat, kind of had a look at it, wanted to see, I knew it was going to stick in, wanted to see how far it was going to come out. Made my first bend up, then brought it around and made that second bend up in the top. That way it's got that arch to it like we're all used to seeing in a bat. I had a couple of pictures that I was referencing along the way to make sure I stand along the shape, but really it was all just eyeballed. And once I had that one down the way I liked it, then to get the second one as close to the same shape as the other one, all I did really was just lay that first one down and basically used it as a guide to bend and shape the wing for the other side. As you can see here, it takes a little bit of work. It's not too bad, but just keep reshaping and bending and getting it close. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's off by a little bit, no one's going to notice that. Just get as close as you can to the other one, and by the end result, it'll look great. There we go. Close enough. So what I'm doing here is gauging out, basically doing the same thing I did for the wings on top, just mocking up the legs, trying to find an idea where I want to stick them, how far out they should go, get the angles on it. Again, no true pattern to it, just looking at pictures, just looking at what's in front of me, getting a good eyeball on it and having a reference point and thinking, yeah, that looks good, that's where I want it, and cutting away. There's really no science to mache. It's all in your own artistic value in what you see. That's a great thing about it. So there we go. We got our basic structure here of our bat. So next, what we want to do is mache this. This hanger's got it's got a plastic coating on it, and the mache won't stick to it. So what you're going to want to do to all these pieces before you can ever mache or do anything else, you want to wrap all the wire, all your hanger completely with masking tape from top to bottom. That masking tape will give your paper mache something to stick to. Without this, it doesn't want to stick, and it's really a pain. So I really suggest that you wrap all your hangers before you go to put any kind of mache to them at all. So not to bore you, jump through that real quick. Every one of those pieces you can't tell, doesn't look like it, but they're all wrapped with tape. So we're ready to go. What I'm doing is just kind of getting an eyeball on where I should insert these wings. So I'm just kind of looking at it, changing some angles on it, positioning the wings. Do I want them forward? Do I want it backward? Do I want to come straight out? Once I had a good idea, I just kind of marked it off on one side, and then like I did here, just to get them as close to the same position as possible, I brought a line around to the other side and then put a dot on the other side. That way I knew the other wing would be pretty well close to being in the same position. Then I marked out my places for the legs and then for the tail. After that, and be careful when you're using a drill, unlike me, you can drill right into your hand. You're simply just going to drill through the mache, get a hole in it, that way you've got a place to hot glue your pieces in. Unlike, you'll find out, like I found out, that's all packed with paper. When you go to shove it in, sometimes you get lucky and it goes in as far as you want, sometimes you don't, so you may have to pull them back out, trim them off a bit, like this side here. That way it gets in closer and everything looks pretty much the same. Yep, kind of like the way that looks. So the next thing I'm going to do is just simply hot glue these into place. Now when you do this and you hot glue that in, that hot glue, as long as there's no extra weight on those little wings, it'll hold into place. But other than that, anytime you just straight hot glue a wire like that in, they'll want to rotate. Plus we need some girth right at the body from where the wings come up, so you got some muscle structure there. I missed it in the video, but what I did is what you're seeing right now, just in this small part, taking a little bit of paper and wrapping it up. Basically what I did was start at the body, taped it to the body a little bit, and then wrapped it, and I did a few layers until I bulked that up, and then brought it down to this little elbow piece here to give that meaty look to it. And I also, when I put that paper there to apply that, I really taped it tight to the body, as tight to the body as I could. I actually over taped it just so I could make sure that my wings didn't want to move on me, that they were taped into place. Because once we start applying the mache, we don't want them to move. Now after we get the mache on it and the mache dries, everything will stay in place. But before we do that, they're easy to move. So make sure you wrap them, tape them tight. Like on any bat, you've got the structure there that's close to the body, that's got some muscle to it, and then right after that elbow, there's a little bit of muscle there as well. So you'll just wrap those spots as well with paper like you saw, tape it up, and you'll be ready to go. What I'm doing here was trying to figure out basically how to lay in the skeleton part of the wing. If you look at any bat, you'll see as the wing folds out, there's basically 3 bones that come down to hold the wing, and then the wing flows off to the feet and tail. So we took our other hanger there. It was the 3rd hanger. I just straightened it out, eyeballed it, and was cutting them to length to see what I wanted. So what I wound up with was 2 longer pieces and 2 pieces just a little bit shorter. And I believe by the time this is done, what I'm doing there is I keep in my mind, I'm visioning the cup of the wing, how they kind of flow in and how it'll look when it's done. Like that there. I felt like the longer one was too far out there. I didn't like the cup in it. So I just kept repositioning it, looking at it, until I was coming up with something I was happy with. And once I was happy with the other side, then basically you're just going to mock and set up the same on the other side. So I was pretty content with the way that was going to turn out. So again, I covered all those wires with tape, and then first stage of this was to simply hot glue right where those are into place. After you hot glue them into place and it dries, then you're going to want to take some tape like you saw right there and tape them into place. After we got them all taped into place and they're secure, next step we want to do, just like everything else, is start laying on the strip mache. So at this point, we're just going to strip mache, and you're going to strip mache everything that you see, every piece of bare tape. No bare tape. We want to cover every wire and every piece of tape with mache. Always focus more mache on your points that attach to the bat itself, and focus a lot of mache strips right there where those 3 points come together in the wing. It really adds stability and strength to your project. Okay, so we got that all mached up, that is set out and dried. Next thing we need to do is put a few more little details on before we lay the wings, wing skin on. Anyway, the shoulders need a little more beefing right where the arm met up with the body, so just took some paper clay that I had made and used the paper clay right here in these areas to bulk this up a little bit and make it join into the body a little smoother than they were before. You know, you can't tell from the video, but they were down a little low. I didn't like the way they looked, so I just took a little clay and added in these areas and bulked it up. It's a great thing about maches. You can always change it, and you can always bulk things up and take away. Clay is a wonderful tool in this project. As well, you'll see here in a minute, the shoulder on one side was kind of down. I didn't like it. It didn't have the same flow, so took a little bit of clay, added to that side of the shoulder, bulked it back out, smoothed it out. That way I got a nice good shoulder line all the way across the back of our bat. Clay is great for these finishing details like this. If you have something that's off, or you got a divot or whatever, you can patch it up with some clay, smooth it out, and shape it together. It's very nice. As well, on those back legs too, I wanted to add a little girth to those as they as they came up and met the body, so it just blended a little smoother. So we added some clay in those spots as well. Once this is done, one of the last things I wanted to put on were some ears. What's a bat without ears? So simply all I did was took a couple little pinches, small little pinches of clay, made them in as close as I could get to a triangle shape, and then just kind of smashed it down on the head and smoothed out the points on the bottom where it actually attached to the head. Right there's one, and then just repeated the same process and stuck another one on. Like I said, this was a pretty quick and dirty bat. There wasn't a whole lot of detail, but just little items like this, it's all you need. It's very easy, you can tell, there's a set of ears. So very quick, very easy, fun to do. There we go. A couple of ears for a bat. Now what I forgot to film, and I'll show you guys real quick, we're all dried up, there's our ears. I did the same thing for the feet. I just took a couple little pinches of clay and applied them to the very ends of the legs and made a couple feet. There's no detail in them, just a couple little blobs of clay on the end, and it gets the point across. Okay, so what I've got here is a piece of material. It's pretty thin. It's a lot like sheet material that you use for your bed. I bought this at a local fabric store here, Joann's. But if you had an old sheet or even a piece of t-shirt, this would work as well. It was cheap enough. I got this on clearance, so I bought a bundle of it. It's very nice. So the first thing we're going to do is you'll lay the sheet out on top of your bat, and then you're going to trace out or mark out the outer edges of the wings. We're going to mark out the leg points, the tail points, and also we're going to mark out each one of the bone structures for the 3 pieces of wing that come down. The reason we'll mark out these points on the wings, on the bone structure and the legs to come down, because we'll use this as a reference. Once we cut this and go to lay it back on, the marker's still visible, so we'll be able to line this back up just how we have it on here. So basically what we're going to do right now, mark out these points, and then we're going to mark out a line below the wings and around the feet. And this is going to be our line that we're going to cut this sheet down to fit the bat better than what it does now. Now when we mark out the bottom side of this, we're not really worried about marking in the curve of the wing or anything like that. Basically what we're going to do is mark this a little long, and then after we apply this wing skin and it dries up, we will go back in and cut this to fit, or cut the detail into it after it's dried and adhered to our bat. So right now all you really want to do is mark out an overlay for the wing and give you a reference point to cut this thing down so that we can move on to our next step. Once we have it all marked out, you just take the bat out, get a good sharp pair of scissors, and like anything you learned in school, we're just going to cut and follow the pattern that we just traced out. Okay, so the next step we're going to do here, it's a lot like monster mudding the project, if any of you guys are familiar with monster mud, but we're just going to do it with papier-mâché paste. So what we'll do is take that piece of material, you're going to just dip it directly down into your papier-mâché paste that you have. Let it really soak up as much as it can. The more of the paste it soaks up, the stronger it'll be when it dries out. So once you feel like you've got enough soaked in, what you want to do, you really want to string out all the excess papier-mâché paste that you have in there. Otherwise you'll have a big, just sloppy mess on your hands. So once we got it dipped in mache paste and soaked in, then we're going to reapply it to our bat. You should be able to see here, you can still see those reference marks that we marked out with the Sharpie on there. So basically you're just going to lay this thing back out just how you had it marked out. You'll stretch it out, press it down to those wing joints. As you'll see, pay kind of close attention to where it connects to the wing. The end of that material will want to roll up on you, so you'll want to go back over and push that down and smooth it back into the armature as well as you can. You may have to do that 2 or 3 times, but it will eventually lay and stick. So just as we had it laid out, you're just going to pull this thing back out, stretch it back out, and get all your lines lined back out, and you'll have your wing skin applied to your bat. It's very simple, easy to do. This is great when you're doing anything with making wings, if you're making ears, anything like that where you need this extra skin. The material works phenomenal. When this dries, it's very sturdy. It has a great texture to it. I really enjoy using material in mache whenever I can or I have the opportunity to. It does a great job. There we go. Doesn't look like much now, but it's beautiful. We got a nice leathery looking wing for our bat. We'll set this up on a bowl or anything like that and leave it for 24 hours to dry. When you come back in 24 hours, and it could dry even quicker depending on temperature and where it's placed at, and we're going to have a nice sturdy wing section that's going to glue and adhere to our armature. It's wonderful. All right, so our wings have set out and they've dried. Now basically all we're going to do is come back in and cut and form this to fit better than what it did. And we're going to get the shape and the detail over wings, the final detail in it here. You can take an X-Acto knife. This is very easy to cut. You got a nice sharp X-Acto knife. You can cut right into this and pull it right out. It's very nice. Also, as well, as you'll see in a minute, I didn't do it for you on film here. You take a pencil and go ahead and trace your outline, how you want the wings to lay out, and then just follow your line. Very simple. So once we trace all these out and get them cut out, you may have some ridges here and there along those wing lines. Just come back to where it kind of rolled up a little bit as it dried. Just come back in with an X-Acto knife and just lightly cut those pieces off and shave that up and trim it out. And we have great looking sculpted wings for our bat. Very simple, very easy. Alright guys, we're all done. It's all trimmed out. The wings look great. Next I'll see you over in step 2 where we'll add the finishing details up on the head and get this thing ready to paint. So look forward to seeing you in step 2.